Ho ho ho! I'm not Santa, but I do have a present for everybody watching, of which I'll get into in just about a minute. Now, the Diablo 4 Midwinter event is closely approaching and seemed like the right time to share this very powerful Sorceress build that I will be using for the Abattoir of Zur event coming up. This build specializes in massive AoE damage, destroying everything on your screen. Technically, this is a Blizzard build, but most of our damage is coming from ice spikes, and the build has to be set up in a very particular way in order to achieve the high damage numbers. Now, the build does provide consistent high damage, good mana regeneration, which is required for the build to succeed, and we are also extremely tanky, so we can take a stroll right through a tier 100 nightmare dungeon like it's a stroll in the park on Christmas Eve. In my opinion, this build is better than Ball Lightning for 95% of the game. The only place Ball Lightning beats this build is in boss damage. Now, with that said, we destroy most bosses in 5 to 10 seconds. This is one of those builds I highly recommend you watch the entire video versus jumping right to the build link. I'm going to explain a few pieces of critical information that you absolutely do not want to miss. Let's kick it off and start with the first piece of critical information. Now, I'm very grateful for every subscriber to the channel, and none of this is possible without you, and this is my small way to say thank you. This is the season of giving, and we are giving away a $100 Amazon gift card. The random drawing will be on December 24th. If you want a chance at having $100 in your stocking, all you need to do to enter the drawing is number 1, be a subscriber to the channel, and number 2, drop a comment in the comment section down below on this video. We will pick a random winner on December 24th, 2023. Alright, let's move on with the rest of the video. We're going to go over skill tree points, gear, aspects, vampiric powers, gems, paragon points, glyphs, and how our damage multipliers work so you fully understand where all that high damage is coming from. I'm going to humbly ask, if you enjoy my content, please make sure you give the video a like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help the channel with the YouTube algorithms, and it would be greatly appreciated. Let's start with the skill tree. Starting at the top of the skill tree, we have 2 points into Firebolt. We are not using this for a skill, we are using it for an enchantment effect. And this is actually mandatory for this build. This adds a tremendous amount of damage. Make sure you put 2 points into Firebolt. Core skills, we got 1 in a Frozen Orb and another one down in Destructive Frozen Orb. Now, this is going to give us a mana back when we hit frozen enemies, and all enemies, almost every single enemy that we are hitting is going to be frozen. And if they are not frozen, they're going to be highly chilled, so they are taking a tremendous amount of damage. Now, on top of that, we want to put 3 points into Potent Warding, so it makes us a little bit more tanky. Defensive skills, we got 1 in the Elemental Attunement. This is all you need because it works every 10 seconds. It's a 5% chance to reset the cooldown on your defensive skills, and we are attacking fast, so you will get that reset just about every 10 seconds. Now, we're also moving over and taking 1 in Flame Shield. We're going into Teleport, moving all the way down the line to Shimmering Teleport to get that extra damage reduction after teleporting. Along with that, we got 3 in a Glass Cannon, and we move over to Ice Armor along with taking Enhanced Ice Armor because we want that extra mana regeneration. Now, mana regeneration for this build is critical, so we want to get mana regen every time we can. Conjuration skills, we've got 1 into Align the Elements, which opens up Mana Shield and Protection. Now, 3 into Mana Shield, that gives us a lot of damage reduction, and 3 into Protection. It's going to give us a barrier for 3 seconds every time we use a cooldown. Now, speaking of cooldown, this is really important. Put 1 in the Ice Blade and go over to Summon Ice Blades. 20% of the Enhanced Ice Blades cooldown reduction is applied to your other skills. So that reduces your other skills so you can use them faster. When you're using those skills, you're giving yourself a barrier. So these two coincide perfectly together. Mastery skills, we got 1 point in the Ice Veil, 3 in the Cold Front, 3 in the Snap Freeze. We're moving over to Blizzard. This is a Blizzard build, but we only need 1 point in the Blizzard. Now we're going to move over to Mage's Blizzard, so when cast above 50 mana, the Blizzard duration is increased by 4 seconds. Now, like I mentioned earlier in the video, yes, technically it is a Blizzard build, but most of our damage is coming from ice spikes, and that is coinciding perfectly with the way we are going to set up our aspects and our Paragon board. So make sure you only put 1 in the Blizzard. Now we're going to move over to Inner Flames. We're going to put 1 point there to open up Devouring Blaze. So every enemy we hit will be on fire. they will be burning, so we are going to do extra increased critical strike damage to all enemies. Ultimate skills, 3 in the Permafrost, 3 in the Hoarfrost, 3 in the Frigid Breeze. Don't skip out on it. This is another opportunity to get mana back. Now, speaking of mana, put 3 in the Fiery Surge. Every single enemy we are destroying will be burning because of the way we have our enchantment slot set up, is going to increase our mana regen by 45%. That is awesome. It is critical for this build. Don't skip out on it. Now let's take a look at our ultimate. We are going Deep Freeze, and we are going all the way down to Supreme Deep Freeze. This feels so good, freezing everything on your screen, and as soon as everything's dead, you got all your cooldowns again, so you're ready to rock and roll. Our key passive is Avalanche. It gives us an opportunity to cast our skills and not consume any mana, and on top of that, it's dealing 40% increased damage. That is awesome, and that chance is doubled against vulnerable enemies, so it's basically 20% chance at all times. For our enchantments, we have Firebolt and Frozen Orb enchantment. Now taking a look at our skill bar, we have Ice Armor, Flame Shield, Teleport, Deep Freeze, Ice Blades, and of course, Blizzard. Gear and aspects, there is some critical information in this part of the video that you absolutely don't want to miss. Now let's start off with the helm. We are going with Godslayer. If you don't have Godslayer yet, make sure on your helm you put minus 20% damage reduction to help you be more tanky. For your chest piece, ideally what you want is total armor and damage reduction. If you can get those two, that's great. And along with that, have the aspect while within your own blizzard, and for 3 seconds after, you take in 25% or up to 25% less damage. Ideally on your gloves, you're looking for plus attack speed and lucky hit up to a 5% chance to restore your primary resources. We want to look for that on every single piece of gear we can find. We want primary resources. We want our mana regen back as soon as possible. Now, the aspect that we have here is actually really important to reach the high damage numbers. The first part of the aspect really isn't that important. While Deep Freeze is active, that's not important. It's your ice spikes have a 50% increased explosion radius, and those ice spikes are going off everywhere at all times. So basically you are exploding everything on your screen at all times with this aspect, and there is another one coming that is absolutely critical to have. For the pants, we're going with tie bolts. Now, every time we teleport, we are unstoppable, and for 4 seconds after that. So you are dealing a tremendous amount more damage, but that's not the most important part here. When you become unstoppable, you gain 50 of your primary resource. That's the real reason we're using tie bolts. And along with having the damage reduction from close enemies, that's probably our weakest part of the build, is not having that physical part of the reduction on damage. So this does help a bit, and with that maximum resources, that allows us to cast Blizzard more often. For our boots, we're using Isus for 2 really main reasons here. So we want that plus movement speed. If you see on the top, every time you evade, you gain 75% movement speed. These things make you just glide around the map, and on top of that, you get up to a 26.2% movement speed bonus at all times. And along with that, going back to mana cost reduction. Always looking for that. If you don't have Isus, make sure you're looking for mana cost reduction and movement speed on your boots. For our main hand, we're going with the wand, and we are using the aspect you deal up to 30% increased damage to vulnerable enemies while you have a barrier. And we're basically going to have a barrier up at all times. Alright, taking a look at the amulet, this is critical information number 2, and this is so important, guys. Don't skip this. This aspect, when you cast Blizzard, it will periodically spawn exploding ice spikes. This aspect must go on your amulet. I've tried this on every other piece of gear, and it drops your damage by about 50%. It's absolutely insane. So you must put it on your amulet. Now, when we have it on the amulet, combined with the way we have our Paragon board set up, the ice spikes are doing almost all of our damage. So if you can get a good roll on this aspect, put it in your amulet, this is where you are going to see the high damage numbers coming from. For our rings, we're going with Tal Rasha. Tal Rasha should be on every sorceress build, period. It's that powerful. Now going to the next ring, Blue Rose. Mana cost reduction up to 23.7%. That is absolutely awesome for this build. Now, tying in everything else, the Ice Spike damage is critical for this build too, so don't skip out on Blue Rose or Tal Rasha, because these two combined send your damage into the stratosphere. And last but not least, we have our focus. We want to put an aspect there that increases our damage when we have a barrier active. Vamparic Powers, we're going with a Curse Touch and Prey on the Weak. These two work perfectly together. We're going to curse the enemy, and as soon as they're cursed, they're going to be vulnerable. We're going to be doing more damage to vulnerable enemies. And speaking of more damage, we want Ravenous, because we want to attack much faster than normally. So we're going to have a 20% chance to increase that attack speed by 40% of our total movement speed. And my current bonus is 57.7%. That is some seriously fast attacking speed. And if we are attacking faster, we are doing much, much more damage. Now, these two right here are basically making us a tank. So we are using Sanquine's Brace to fortify us, and once we are fortified above 50%, we're gaining 8% critical strike chance. So this is awesome. And on top of that, we have Undying. We are constantly healing ourselves as we're dishing out damage. It's really hard to kill us with these two here. Don't skip out on these two. These are really important: Sanquine's Brace and Undying. Taking a look at the Paragon and Glyphs, there is going to be critical information number 3 in this section of the video. You don't want to miss out on it. So let's go up the starter board. We are going all the way to the right. We are going right up to the Elementalist Glyph. This is a flat damage bonus. Then we're going to go all the way up to the left side, and we're going up to the second board. Paragon board number 2 is Icefall, and here is critical information number 3. Stalagmite. So the entire build is built around ice spike damage. Now, this glyph increases your critical strike chance of your ice spikes and drastically increases your ice spike skill damage, along with having that paired with the aspect that we talked about on your amulet. This is how you get that consistent high damage numbers. Paragon board number 3 is Enchantment Master, and the glyph we are using is Flame Feeder. So every single enemy we are attacking is burning. We are doing some extra damage to those burning enemies. Paragon board number 4 is Burning Instinct, and we are using the glyph Destruction. So we are trying to add as much critical strike damage to our ice spikes as possible. So Destruction's pretty mandatory for this build. Paragon board number 5 is Frigid Fate, and the glyph we are using is actually really important. So it does 2 things for us. It increases the damage to chilled enemies, and if you look on the bottom, enemies deal 13% reduced damage to you for 5 seconds after they're no longer frozen. So if you go back to the aspect that we used on the glove, which we take a flat up to 25% damage reduction, now you tie this on top of it, that's up to 38% damage reduction, flat damage. Those two combined are awesome. For the 6th and final Paragon board, we're going with Ceaseless Conduit, and the glyph we are using is Control. All enemies we are attacking are controlled from our blizzards, our frozen orbs, our ice spikes, and when they are chilled or frozen, we're doing more damage to those crowd-controlled enemies. This rotation is super simple. You always start with Ice Blades. Get Ice Blades out there because 20% of its reductions are applied to all of your other skills, so it's allowing you to use your other skills a lot faster. And then after that, you just spam the heck out of Blizzard, and as soon as you run out of mana, you hit either Teleport or your Flame Shield, and it brings your mana back to full immediately. That is going to wrap up the Blizzard Sorceress Ice Spike build with the Tal Rasha ring for Diablo 4. I would like to thank each and every one of my subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. For the new viewers, if you guys enjoyed the video or learned something new, please consider supporting the channel by liking, commenting, or subscribing so you don't miss any future Diablo 4 videos. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'm out.